The music, the movement, the money.
It's very seldom that you encounter an artist whose vision for their leadership profile is as clearly developed as their sound and their music. But today I have the privilege of welcoming someone just who fits that category. Bobby Stone, leader of the new old school, is my very first guest. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be the first guest. Thank you for having me.
So look, there's a lot to love about you, a lot.
Thank you.
But in particular, from where I'm coming from, what impresses me, one of the things is you understand branding like very few people. I wanted to start there. You got the acronym, the leader of the new old school, and you make constant references to two things that are very visual and very meaningful. That's the bar and the ladder. So let's start with you being the leader of the new old school. What's Tino's all about?
The new old school is something I created. I felt like that there was this gap between the Rakims, the Lord Finesses, the people that set the bar, the standard, and I felt like we got this new technology, new beats. You were just talking about Pro Tools, and there needed to be this bridge, and that's what the new old school is about. So the standards, for example, KRS-One, you must learn. Being smart was cool. At least that's what I remember when I was a little kid and my older brothers were watching Video Music Box. So how do we bring it to the new school, right, and keep those standards that they kept? One of my lines is we went from Video Music Box to YouTube, right? But as technology progresses, I feel like we still need to keep the standard that these legends created. So, and that's what the new old school is about. And under that platform, you'll find the music, the fashion, my gear, the sound of the DJ, and yeah, pretty much.
So follow up, you mentioned Video Music Box. Big influence on me, big influence on a lot of us on the East Coast, Northeast region. What was that like, and how influential was this transition and the emergence of video in the culture? Did that shape the way that you go about, constructing your art and just thinking about your branding?
Definitely. When I make music, I'm already thinking about the video. So a lot of people go into the process with their lyrics and their rhymes. I'm thinking about, what do people want to see? Like, what would stop you if you were on YouTube? I'm thinking about the visual first, and then I'm trying to create a song behind it. Reason being, as we grew up on videos and watching videos and listening to music, it seems like people weren't really listening when I started rapping a lot. They have Kindle, right? They don't really have the book, So a lot of artists put their stuff on SoundCloud, but no one really listens to it. Me, I've had stuff on SoundCloud for years. I put a video out. They're like, oh, I love the song, but it's been out. So it just shows you that people really want the visual. They don't have time to press play all the time. They want to see stuff right away. So thank God for Ralph McDaniels. I don't think he knew what he was doing when I was a little kid watching that. But yeah, I brand through my visuals on Instagram. I brand through my visuals on YouTube. The visuals are go for me.
And the bar and the ladder are two of the visuals that stand out the most in your work. You made me think about both in a way I had never thought of. Could you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by the bar and the ladder?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was just talking to somebody about that. I think it's one of the crucial things in hip-hop that we need to get back on. The ladder is me putting the ladder back down. Back in the days, you have Biz Markie, Big Daddy Kane, but before that, you had Marley Marl, right? He puts the ladder back down and put these guys together. Quincy Jones even, right? I was watching his documentary and he was talking about how Michael Jackson came to him during The Wiz and said, hey, could you be my producer? And Quincy said, I'll be your producer. Next thing you know, it was Thriller. Quincy Jones put the ladder back down for him. Oprah said she wasn't discovered until Quincy Jones looked on the TV and was like, Will Smith. He put the ladder back down for all of those people. And what I learned from watching that is that when he needed them, Barack was there, Will Smith was there. He had this big event and they all showed up. Colin Powell was there. So I'm very giving as far as like so when I opened up a bar, Brooklyn Nights bar, when I was there on DeKalb and Franklin, I hired people in my community. I put the ladder back down for people in my community. I kept the prices the same. I didn't have like Caesar salad with raisins for $17.95. You know, I kept it very hood. And part of putting the ladder back down is because I'm gonna be old one day, like Quincy Jones, and I want to plant seeds in people, man. So it's very giving, but it's also a little bit selfish. I'm thinking about myself at the same time.
Well, you definitely have laid the foundation for the type of mature opportunities that you're enjoying now and that you're exploiting. I want to go back a little bit to the music itself. When you reference the leader of the new old school, and you talk about that shift, where did that catch you musically? Because I find that even when like I'm working on music, you know, that double time, Afro beat, so much of the production that the area that you're talking about was boom bap, and there were different sounds and different looks. Do you even have that as a reference when you talk about the schools that have been in hip hop? Is it an aesthetic expression as much as it is a marker of time?
Yeah, I think the boom bap is, for example, my artist just put out a project called Boom Bap Vocalist.
Okay.
Right? Who mentions boom bap in 2019, right? His name is Grand Fortune, by the way, and I put the ladder back down for him to do it. I think that the disconnect, I just wanted to touch on as far as the bar, a lot of the OGs, with all due respect, I love them to death, don't put the ladder back down. So what happens is, you have Rick Ross, right? His message is, I got watches, I got rollies, I got all these women. He puts the ladder back down for who? Meek Mill. I got rollies, I got watches, I have this and that, right? And nothing's wrong with that. But the boom bap guys, they get so frustrated with those guys, but they're not putting the ladder back down. So you have these wars, right? So you have like the Mr. Miyagi's, but we don't have no Danielsons to fight these guys. So that's where I come in. And yeah, we got something to say too. So we're like the X-Men representing the new old school. And no, beating up our sisters and raping our women and talking disrespectfully is not how we operate. That's not what the elders taught me. It's tough getting the younger kids to get on it. I try to get them on part of the new old school, and they're like, ah, that's whack. You're trying to kick knowledge, you know? So we really have to get back to that. You know, I'm very critical on the OGs. I feel like if they would put the ladder back down, if you look at all of those big artists from back in the days, you can't name too many artists that they put on. So there's the disconnect now. So
all right, let's stay on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a serious subject.
It's very serious.
It's the crisis of cultural continuity.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's what they complain about, but they are part of it.
Okay, build on that.
Yeah.
How do they contribute to it knowingly or unknowingly? What they're critiquing?
Yeah, they contribute to it because, let's say you have Tekashi, right? Currently incarcerated. I don't wish jail on anyone. But he's going around telling people S&D, I'll fight you, going to LA, Oakland, where they don't really play those kind of games, right? Big Daddy Kane wouldn't encourage his artists to do that. Lord Jamar, he put on Dead Prez. So I want to see who Dead Prez is going to put on, right? And then that trickles down. That's how our story, the hip hop culture, goes on. We need to see MC Light's artists, right? And what she represented. I have nothing against Nicki Minaj, but the artist that she might put on might represent what she represents. I want to see who Lauryn Hill puts on. That way the listener, they can choose and make an informed decision on what they like or what they think is hip hop. One thing that never changes is hip hop, right? You can't go into a mosque and give them pork, right? You can't go to China and tell them to put on dashikis.
No, sir.
Right? So we have to own this, you know, what we represent. It's pretty much all we got.
I want to pursue you a little bit on this. Okay, so years ago I wrote this piece called The Consciousness of Jay-Z, Wu-Tang, and Suge Knight. And I made a similar point to the one you made about a big artist putting on the next person. And my criticism was for the more artists that were known as conscious, because I felt like their lyrics were more meaningful and maybe more inspirational, but their operating system and their business practices were about them.
Definitely.
So you can, you know, we can critique.
I gotta read that.
Yeah, it's a classic piece.
Were they mad at you?
Yeah.
I bet.
Very much so.
I bet.
But, but I wrestle with that because I want to be constructively critical of the artists who obviously the lyrical content, you know, is not the most uplifting, but then they'll put people on and they'll build something that lasts beyond them. And then the other artists who have the flow right,
oh man,
the
just
references,
gave me goosebumps. Go ahead.
you know, they're not building any institutions. So what is that? I called it a crisis of consciousness, but
I don't think I could top that. It is a crisis of consciousness. And all right, so is it? But I'm torn with that as well, because all right, so if this artist who's talking about crack and pushing drugs into our community, if he's putting on a bunch of other people that are saying that, that's great. They're getting out the community. That's one less person that's going to be watching my mom at the ATM when she get off the train on Utica Avenue. But on a bigger scale, macro, it's more poison. It's more these guys that are selling poison.
So you're saying in a way it helps project it further.
Yeah, it helps, yes. Yeah. It helps project that message further, that all we know how to do is sell crack, and that's impossible, you know? We come from empires and dynasties, right? So we can do way more than that. So I do like the fact that this gentleman gets out the hood and he doesn't have to sell crack anymore, but he's selling this message about crack and drugs. So I do like that they extend the ladder back down for each other in that aspect. But you're right, so the conscious guys get mad at them. Oh, you're only talking about drugs. Oh, you're only talking about women and just being disrespectful. Well, when the last time I seen you in Crown Heights or in the I do a back to school event every year. And it's from the community. It's not no big people that help us, you know. It's all grassroots stuff. No one put the ladder back down for me, right? I had to create my own ladder. And not to be critical on all of them. There are a few that have done it, but we need to really get back to that. Barry Gordy style. He worked with a certain kind of people, you know, and I really think that we have to get back to that for the sake of the culture, sake of the crisis.
So let's talk a little bit, we talked about the ladder, let's talk about the bar. You had one of the most fascinating dramas, stories, and it forced me to think deeply about, like, how could that happen? You tell the story about the bar that you opened and what you faced and what ensued. Well,
I started out doing radio. I got tired of begging people to play my music. One big DJ I won't mention in Hot 97, I gave him my music at a club one day, and he acted like I gave him AIDS or something, or like cancer when I handed it to him. He was just so upset. And I was like, I'll never ask them again. So I started my own radio show, and the radio show took off. I started calling all the independent artists who I knew felt like me.
Right.
And I started playing their music every Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. I was paying like $40 a month, and the radio took off. After that, all the artists were calling up. I would play their music, and they would be like, hey, let's do an event. I had all these emails of artists. I started doing events. Club Pyramid, just inviting all the artists out. Let's stop begging them. Let's just create our own thing, guys. I gathered everyone up. And then I started doing the events. I became a promoter. So hey, I just want to rap. But I was forced to do the radio. I felt like I was forced to do the events just to be heard. And then one day I went to go book a club, and the owner was like, hey man, I love your crowd. I love what you're doing. I'm getting old. You ever thought about running your own bar? I was like, no, but yeah. You know, I went and got a liquor license. I went to the community board. I got some childhood friends to help me with the money. And the goal was never to sell calamari, you know? So at the bar is where a lot of things started happening more. The entertainers started coming out. Tierra Marie started coming out. I was getting more respect as this title of this owner of this bar, but I was playing my music, you know, while people were eating, you know.
Right.
I was still doing like a lot of radio stuff. And that's where I met Mr. Cheeks, and that's where I met Rock from Helter Skelter, who I have a new single with on YouTube. That's where I'm, you know, Fame, MOP. And what I learned about the bar too taught me a lot about my people. So we have this bar, we have wings, we have burgers, and all my friends are going to Red Lobster, you know. I got this bar, I got Corona. Why y'all going to Buffalo Wild Wings? But y'all all bring y'all kids to my back to school event to take books off the table, right? So I was learning that we don't really uplift the guy in the community that's, even though I'm hiring you, yeah, my cousin need a job, my cousin just came home, he can't find work. I'm always like this community guy, but I'm watching these people support the bigger corporations. Another struggle with the bar was I learned that you can't just hire your people because they're your people. You gotta hire who's best for the job. I'm a big Marcus Garvey kind of guy. That's my favorite.
Me too.
That's my hero, you know. I study him. It's also some of his people is why he got shipped back to Africa. You know, so I'm gonna come back to the bar world eventually, but I'll just be a little bit smarter. My people were selling wings downstairs behind my back, you know? So I gotta be a little bit more clever. I'm still for the people and by the people, even though they chose to go to corporations, even though I'm the guy putting the ladder back down. And I also learned that that was happening before I was born. It's not a new concept.
But you have a lot going on. You got the app.
Yeah.
You have a lot of new product, new collaborations.
Yeah.
Creatively, where are you now?
I'm just grateful, man, that I have my wits after all this time. A guy sent me a beat the other day, and you know, I went and recorded it like 2 days later. I don't know where it comes from. I just hope it never shuts off. But yeah, I got a song with MOP. These are legends that I grew up with. Rock from Helter Skelter. I just opened up for Trader Truth in Texas. I'm going to Arizona to perform with Rock coming up. I want to write for more artists. So back to putting the ladder back down, being behind the pen, I can get different youth, right, to spit that message that is about positivity. And my music it has a message, but you can move to it. I think that sometimes some dudes are so conscious, it's like through the metaphorical, metaphysicals, and I'm not really into that. I think that it's still music, and people still should be able to bop and move to it.
Where do you see yourself 3 years, 5 years from now? Putting all of this together, the leadership profile, fatherhood, business.
I definitely want to get into more acting. I'm in Respect Life web series, but I also did a role with Raheem. Was it Raheem and Juice? Yes, Raheem and Juice. So he's in the movie. I'm just an extra playing a cop, and I had so much fun there. It was from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Wow.
And I just enjoyed it. I want to get into more acting. I want to get into plays. I want to get back into playing the trumpet. Like I grew up playing the trumpet. I was the kid in school when everybody graduated. So I want to get back to that. And the biggest goal for the next 3-5 years is the new old school, a tangible thing. A building, an organization. I used to go to Harlem, Minnesink Townhouse on 142nd and Lenox Avenue, and they took us to camp. They let us step, they let us practice art. And when I went to my son's open school night, I said, yo, take me to your art teacher. He said, he don't have art. I said, take me to your music teacher. He said, we don't have music, Daddy. I'm just like, what? Like, that for me, that's a bigger setup. But the reason why the new old school organization is important is because we want a place where they can not just play basketball, where they can come have therapy, have somebody to talk to. How was your day? How are you coping? Where they can learn how to record, you know, learn how to mix, learn how to master, learn how to identify their talents. Mainly because when our kids aren't occupied, they get into trouble. When adults aren't occupied, they get into trouble, right? So imagine our kids. I'll just say a quick story. There was a kid, he got arrested because he started a fire. A lot of our kids like fire, right? And our job is to find the stress, right? Maybe they could be a fireman, or maybe they could work in a circus, but we throw them in the group homes and these psychiatric places because they like fire. But anyway, he's playing with fire. The fire took over the building. He knocked on the lady's door. He ran, and she alerted the whole building. Nobody got hurt, except for the cop that responded to the scene. He died. So there was this big thing about, are we gonna send this little adolescent to jail? And they did. They sent the little boy to jail. But they asked him, why'd you do it? He said, I had nothing to do. He had nothing to do. How horrible, right? You probably play marbles, the girls play jacks and double dutch, right? And he said he had nothing to do. So I feel like that's the importance of why I gotta create this new old school organization, so that they can have a place to go. Not something where they just sign and I could just show the auditors, oh, we have this non-profit organization, but something that they could really utilize and go to when they're in distress as well. So yeah, 3-5 years from now, I definitely just want to focus on that. I want to get my license in social work because I'm just an MSW. That's how they say it to me. So I want to become like a clinician so that I can also supervise other clinicians and really dig deep on how we can improve the community. Back to school events are cool. We give away free school supplies, but we're not really digging deep as we can.
I want to thank you for expressing that. Bobby Stone, living example, living proof of marrying the leadership and the artist profile together, coming from the heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.